one of the things that really made me feel a lot better about the idea of working with you was how closely you related to a lot of the things that I was dealing with, which I didn't expect given that you are, one, single, and two, somewhat younger than me, several years younger than me. But a lot of the ways that you were able to, like, when you would ask me the questions and I would explain what's going on and you would listen and all of that, which was great. You were able to relate a lot of what I was feeling and what I was dealing with to situations that you'd already gone through, or even were currently going through with women in your life. And that level of relatability and that willingness to share some of the vulnerable stuff that you were been going through that dovetailed with where I was coming from, that really put me at ease, and that really gave me a sense of perspective that you actually understand where I'm coming from, and that you could give me relevant, helpful, topical guidance around those things, instead of either being very general or generic about things, as some coaches are, or being more impersonal, saying, okay, this is what's happening, here's what you should do. The level of interactivity and the level of relatability that you brought to our first conversations really made me feel good about working with you.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because that was actually going to be one of my next questions, is like, how did you justify working with me when, like you said, one, I am single, and two, I'm younger than you, and a lot of people ask the same. Actually, I'm curious. So, for somebody else who's kind of going through I was even chatting with a guy recently who's, significantly older, and he's looking at me, he's like, you're younger, you're single. Like, how would you justify to them, or how would you have, like, what would you say to them when it comes to working with somebody who is younger and single and maybe hasn't been married or hasn't been in a crazy 7-year relationship or whatever?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, there's always a question of fit. And, clearly if you're talking to someone who's 60 and they're just not comfortable with working with someone who's 30, then okay, fine, that's a non-starter. But I think that there can be a level of experience and a level of perspective and a level of expertise that isn't automatically tied to age.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've known, you're in your late 20s. I've known people in their late 20s who have no life experience, who don't know what the hell they're doing, and have no qualifications to help anyone do anything. And I know that because I was one of those people. But I also, know people who are in their late 20s who have run 6-figure businesses or multiple 6-figure businesses, who have been in really deep relationships and or have been in relationships with a number of different women that they've learned different things from. I would say one of the things that really brought this to a workable level for me with you, Michael, is the amount of insight and perspective that you actually have learned from what you've done so far. Because you've been able to, you didn't say, oh yeah, I dated this one girl one time and I dealt with something similar and it was shitty, and and I kind of got out of it and then things were fine. Like, you talked about, like, okay, I'm with this girl right now, we're going through a similar thing, this is the argument that we had, this is what the result was of that argument, this is how I handled it, and this is where I realized what the actual impact on me was, and the thing that I learned that I hadn't learned before from that thing, from that event. Mm-hmm. You were able to articulate that and to make that relatable for me in a way that made the age gap much, much less relevant. Mm-hmm. I feel like the ability to bring that level of insight and that level of guidance to a client is something that doesn't come from age as much as it comes from just general experience and understanding what you get from that experience. There are going to be people in their 60s who can't do that, just as there will be people like you in your late 20s who can. And I think that's one of the big differences for me, where, like, yeah, I'm 30, I just turned 38. So, like, okay, that's not as big an age difference as somebody who might be 62, but I feel like I am willing to learn from anyone who can bring that level of perspective and guidance to me. And if they're able to do that at 27 or 31 or 40 or whatever, then that's fine. That's okay with me. And if that's the attitude you are bringing to your coaching experience, then you will probably do well working with Michael, no matter how old you are.